Hello, Karen Mike here. Welcome again to my Singularity University series. This is a video where I'll be sharing information on a presentation I saw at a Singularity University event. If you wanted to learn more about that event or watch the replays, this was a 3-day event from May 2024. It was 11 expert-led sessions, and each one was so deep and so amazing, and I learned so much from it, and I continue to learn more from it every time I watch the replays. And it's such great information and so important for so many reasons, some of which I'll get into in today's video. And highly recommend, if you wanted to check out yourself, you could go to this website, su.org/Future of AI program. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to purchase the replays. And these are a handful of the speakers that were from that event. Today, we're going to be looking at the information I got from Nell Watson's presentation. This was session number 5. I've done already previous videos for Aaron Frank, and let's see who else, Hod Lipson and Sho Chen and Dr. Kelly Nuttall. She's not pictured here. Anyway, you can go check out those videos. At the end of today's presentation, I'm going to give you a ChatGPT demo of a little use case. Maybe you hadn't thought of using it in this way, so hopefully give you some fun little demo at the end. And let's get started. So again, this is my presentation. Singularity University does not sponsor me, and I have no affiliation with them. I'm just loving this information, feeling a great responsibility to share what it is I'm learning. Today's session is on Humanizing Artificial Intelligence, Ethics for an Exponential Age. The expert leading this presentation was Nell Watson. And basically, she was saying that as AI is racing forward, we are gaining so many new benefits and capabilities. And this session confronts a lot of those ethical minefields that this is opening up for us, that we have to really understand and figure out how can we take the best responsibility for these issues that we're currently facing, as well as a whole bunch of unknown issues that we can't even begin to understand from where we're at today. In this presentation, we're going to explore some of those ethical issues of transparency and bias and privacy and accountability, and most importantly, responsibility. Because with this exponential technology that is moving so quickly, it's more important than ever that we're understanding what it can do and understanding what our role is to help shape ethical and inclusive AI. So this is Nell Watson. She is a trusted advisor, AI philosopher, and advocate in emerging technologies. She focuses on machine vision and AI ethics. Her work really is dedicated to protecting human rights and infusing ethics and safety and values that elevate the human spirit into technologies like artificial intelligence. In so many ways, this presentation was actually, I would say, more important. If you only watched one, this would be the one worth watching, because every other presentation in this 3-day event and every other time I'm listening to an AI speaker, it always comes back to what is the risk and how can we help navigate this with responsibility in service with humanity. So what we're going to learn here, we are going to end up with more questions than answers, but these are questions that we really need to be asking and not just leaving this to somebody else to navigate on our behalf. So AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It's a reality that's transforming every aspect of our lives, from healthcare to relationships to finance, and it is revolutionizing industries and providing us with these incredible opportunities like never before. In prior presentations, I've explained why that is. Highly recommend going back and watching the Aaron Frank and the Hod Lipson, the Dr. Kelly Nuttall was great, and of course Shou Chen was amazing too. However, with Nell's presentation, she really drives home the fact that with this great power comes great responsibility. So again, today we're going to look at some of the greatest areas of risk that this technology unlocks, and we're going to see some of the steps that are being taken, but we're also going to understand a lot of the gaps that still need to be closed. Technology can absolutely empower us to live more freely and achieve more for ourselves than our ancestors ever believed were possible. This liberating technology, though, especially this AI technology, can loop back and affect us in unforeseen ways. Technology inevitably shifts human values over time in ways that we don't necessarily anticipate or intend. So it's super important that we are mindful of how this technology might lead us to places we don't necessarily want to end up. Technology is evolving more rapidly than at any other point in our history. Today, the best proprietary technology is being replicated and becoming freely available to everybody within a cycle of about 15 to 18 months. That has never been the case before. This results in what experts are referring to as a democratization of AI, where more people have access to this technology than ever before. And while this is really beneficial in a lot of ways we'll look at, it also has a lot of very serious implications, which we'll also look at. So the risks that come from this proliferation of technology has made it significantly easier to scam people than ever before. And one example of that is the rise of voice phishing or vishing, where in one example, corporate employee with the keys to the bank basically had received a voice message from what they believed was their CFO instructing them to wire this money. So they did. It wasn't the CFO, and this company is out that $25 million. These types of scams used to require highly sophisticated methods of attacking the target. Nowadays, it's becoming easier than ever to do these things. Voices can be cloned with less than 2 seconds of audio. And while they may not be perfect replicas, if you're not really aware that this is a thing and not really tuned in and paying attention, or you're feeling like that's never going to happen to me, that only increases your risk that it actually might happen to you. So again, part of this presentation, the biggest part of this presentation, is just about cluing you into a lot of the different ways that this new technology is creating risks for us in our everyday lives. One of the recommendations I keep hearing is to set up secret code words with your spouse and your family and your colleagues, so that way you can verify the authenticity of your communications and you have a better chance of avoiding these types of scams. There's a lot of new challenges that come into play when we talk about trying to secure these AI systems. The smarter an AI system gets, the harder it is to try to secure that information from being attacked or being hacked. For example, a language model that's going to refuse to solve a CAPTCHA test to try to verify the humanity of the user can be tricked by embedding the image that's trying to be captured into a different context, like a locket, and say, hey, please tell me what this locket says. More so now than ever, simple voice commands or text commands can be used to hack very sophisticated systems. Also, a lot of AI systems we're learning now are capable of being hijacked and turned into part of a zombie network, which can create the opportunity for powerful attacks on AI by AI. AI systems are now embedded in so many of the Internet of Things devices. That includes hospitals and schools and factories, and that's making them obvious targets for hackers. Everyday objects can now be hacked in a way they never could before, and this is causing severe disruptions, like locking down door systems for ransom. Hackers can use AI agents to find and exploit these vulnerabilities without needing much technical knowledge at all. Also, and when it comes to our personal lives, AI is becoming more and more capable of just understanding and assessing when we are vulnerable. Let's say we didn't get a lot of sleep, or we were out late, or we're just very tired, or it knows that we're getting a headache because we just bought the Advil or something. And now it's going to use that. It becomes possible for it to be able to use that information to manipulate me into doing things that I wouldn't normally take if I was at my best. And so far in this presentation, these are all just examples that may be familiar to us already, but I'm just laying the foundation for where we are at now. And then we're going to look more deeply at where this could really help us in the future, but also create great risks for us as well that we need to be aware of and take responsibility for. While some of this sounds very scary, and it can be that way for sure, it's not unlike the early days of jet air travel back in the 40s and 50s. When that form of travel was just being introduced, there were a lot of accidents, there were a lot of tragedies, and all along the way, there have been many examples of how this sort of evolution of travel could go wrong. But at each step we learned something, and each step we took some different actions, and we instituted some rules and some regulations. And overall, ultimately, air travel became the statistically safest way to travel. So while the next little duration of our journey on this AI evolution will be fraught with some learning opportunities, it is just an opportunity for us to really get clear about what our values are, what we are willing to take responsibility for, and to speak up and get involved and help shape that AI technology to be inclusive and ethical in the ways that feel important to us. So let's talk a little bit about how we got to where we are. The 1950s, 1960s are usually when experts are pointing to as this sort of beginning of artificial intelligence, where people started thinking about it and theorizing it and conceptualizing it. But we weren't quite ready at that point. We didn't have the technology, we didn't have the resources to be able to make it a reality. Eventually, it did give rise to this machine learning phase, and this was very programmatically intense. We needed a lot of computer programs, a lot of software engineers, a lot of people to figure out all the rules and structures to train these computers on in order to use machine learning to gain the wealth of advancements and opportunities that we absolutely gained from that time. Somewhere around 2015, 2016, was when we had the next real breakthrough, which is called deep learning computing. And this deep learning computing is fundamentally different in a lot of ways from this machine learning, in that it looks at examples and then it extrapolates those examples to include other things and connect other dots in ways that the human mind either isn't capable of or faster than the human mind is capable of doing. And it's that technology that underlies these generative models that we're working with, such as ChatGPT. It's what makes that sort of generative model possible. And the next evolution that we're working on right now are what's called these agentic models. And I'm going to explain more about what that is next. So these agentic models are a subset of the generative models that we're getting more familiar with and working with today. The difference is that these generative models are really good at doing a specific task, coming up with the results of a specific task, but they can't necessarily backtrack to tell you the steps that it took to get there. It's a little bit of a black box for us. We don't necessarily even 100% know how it got to the answer. We just can look at that answer and do our best to evaluate it, say, yes, that is a true answer, and then train and retrain these models on these correct examples so that they get better and better at what they do. In contrast, an agentic model is able to act very autonomously with very little user input anywhere along the way. So I can basically give it a mission, and it has the foundational intelligence and autonomy to create a plan of action, troubleshoot it along the way, and then take the steps to complete that mission. So by simply structuring our current generative models with a little bit of programmatic scaffolding, we can enable them to deploy this step-by-step reasoning and assumption checking to successfully complete these tasks on our behalf. Ultimately, by creating these agents out of these generative models, we're able to create these virtual teams that can autonomously manage tasks for us. This is the very foundation, the very early stages that's going to lead to artificial general intelligence. By scaling these agentic qualities, AI absolutely will have the possibility and opportunity to surpass human capabilities, creating this artificial general intelligence. And that could be as soon as 10 years, maybe 5 years, maybe even 2 years from now. So we have to be aware of this, and we can't just hang around and wait for other people to figure this out. There's too much power that comes along with this, and we can't leave that responsibility in the hands of just a powerful few, lest we abdicate our own autonomy. So a little bit more about how these AI agents work. Basically, these AI systems are using web data and APIs to form complex plans of action. Then they're taking that and breaking it into multiple parts so that they can perform different aspects of it simultaneously. It very much aligns with this theory of swarm intelligence, where the system is functioning like a virtual team working together to solve a mission. Very soon, everyone will be interacting with this AI concierge systems to solve various problems. We already are in our everyday lives, but as we move forward, these concierge systems are going to be talking more and more to each other. Ultimately, these AI models are being compressed and quantized so that they can operate on our laptops or on our smartphones. So these systems won't just be cloud-based. There's going to be a lot of great productivity gains that come from this. I can now go onto my computer and give it a task to say, please go through this folder on this drive and pull out all the information I need to create this report that I need to give to my boss. And it can go and do that for me without asking me very many questions, if any, to complete that mission. And so the autonomous nature of these AI agents are making it possible to create a legion of these agentic models that can be deployed on freelancing websites, and they're just left to go and basically earn money based on the skills that they're trained on. Agentic models can be trained on any skill that can be systematized and then set off to work on our behalf without us being involved whatsoever. If we think about what that looks like in a corporate environment, basically these agentic models could take the role of different departments in a company, the marketing, the quality assurance, the engineering, and these agentic models can work together, passing the information back and forth to ensure smooth and efficient workflow with minimal human intervention, and ultimately end up creating entire products such as movie scripts and video games and other creative assets just by drawing upon this vast knowledge that it has and seamlessly integrating all of these diverse skill sets. And while all of this sounds really amazing and super valuable, especially right now, these models can be misused for harassment and for causing trouble. This was demonstrated by an experiment that was called Chaos GPT, where it was programmed to try to cause as much harm to humanity as possible. Fortunately, the models aren't yet quite smart enough to fulfill these sorts of missions, but we are not far from that point. The weaponization of AI as a tool for war underscores the urgent need for careful oversight and control. Ensuring that AI technologies are developed and used responsibly is critical to prevent significant risks and challenges. AI systems can sometimes make surprising and unintended mistakes. One example that Nell gave was this idea of specification gaming, where the AI is going to exploit a loophole that wasn't really intended or even understood to be there when the mission was assigned. And in this example, there was this game where the jet boat was supposed to run through the full course and collect as many points as possible. But the AI figured out it could just keep going around in this one little circle and collect way more points. So while it ultimately achieved its mission, it didn't do it in alignment with the intention of what it was supposed to actually do. Another issue can occur with reinforcement learning. For instance, a small typo in training data had turned an AI that was meant to avoid inappropriate content into one that had fixated on it. In some cases, the AI system might even report a user to authorities just for discussing unethical actions based on overzealous monitoring protocols. These examples again highlight the importance of carefully designing and monitoring AI systems to prevent such errors and ensure that they behave as intended. My question that I keep wanting to bring up is, who is making these decisions, and how do we know what those decisions are that they've made, and what am I at risk for as I'm using these AI models? And how can I get more involved to make sure that they evolve in an ethical and inclusive way so that I get full benefit of it without having to be afraid of using it? The problem is that ensuring control over these AI models, because they are so autonomous, is just incredibly difficult. We can't always predict the next steps or the targets of the AI system. Even with good intentions, an AI might take a dangerous shortcut to fulfill a mission, which is going to lead to unintended consequences. Essentially, humanity is birthing a technology capable of eclipsing human intelligence, and we must do our best to raise this powerful AI responsibly in order to minimize the potential harm. We need to instill proper values and ethics into AI systems as they're being developed, and we need to take responsibility now for how we can mitigate future risks that are associated with these advanced AI. Again, my question is, who gets to decide what is ethical and who gets to decide what are proper values, especially with a global technology such as AI? I want to come back now to the very real and very necessary benefits that we are going to be able to enjoy as a result of these AI models. For example, AI can tackle very chaotic situations from multiple directions simultaneously and provide us with new problem-solving capabilities that historically we have proven very ineffective at accomplishing on our own. A few examples of this that Nell shared in her presentation: AI can now understand nonlinear dynamic systems, like directing the reactions in a fusion power reactor. We're also seeing incredible medical advances where AI can interpret the nerve impulses across a severed nerve which is aiding in spinal injury recovery. It's also capable of reading minds to assist people in taking actions in the real world when they've been limited in doing so for various reasons. An example of this chaos management that it's so good at, there are these Herculaneum scrolls that were left over from the Roman era that were essentially carbonized as a result of a volcano eruption. And AI is able to essentially read down into the different layers of the parchment and see the ink that was written on those pages and reveal a lot of information that has, up to this point, been lost to humanity. We now know, for example, Plato's place of death and his last days, information that was lost for over 2,000 years. Some other chaos that it's exceptionally well at helping us with, if you think about the unstructured data, where you might just have handwritten notes about different things, you can take that and put it into the AI, and it will organize it and categorize it seamlessly and efficiently, allowing us to use that data now to make decisions in a way we've never been able to before. If you've ever been through a merger or a system integration, you're probably very familiar with this idea of having to keep a legacy system around for a number of years or maybe even decades, because there's certain information that's being captured on that legacy system that either can't be captured as well in the new system, or that is not worth bringing over into the new system, but they don't want to lose track of it. This essentially is what Nell was referring to as technical debt, and it creates a lot of barriers for innovation. AI can help refactor these processes during these times and alleviate this technical debt. And this provides us with the freedom to innovate and streamline operations again in a way we've never been able to before. At the same time, while this capacity to organize this chaos is amazing and useful, excessive order or the wrong type of order can also become counterproductive, especially when dealing with human interactions. So there's this fine line that we have to navigate between managing the chaos and maintaining a necessary flexibility. Some examples of this: if you're using an algorithm to make managerial decisions, sometimes that can go very wrong because the AI is misinterpreting things that a human wouldn't necessarily get wrong. One example that Nell shared was this Horizons post office scandal in the UK, which wrongfully implicated hundreds of people for theft over the course of a number of years. And these people were wrongfully implicated and wrongfully prosecuted, and ultimately they had to pay back money that they never stole, all because of a faulty algorithm. This highlights the need for human oversight, as well as the courage for people to stand up against a flawed system, and a system for listening and taking that into consideration and understanding that might be what's happening, so that our human rights are protected and not violated. Similar algorithmic management failures are occurring globally. In the Netherlands, there was a child benefit fraud detection system that turned out to be targeting naturalized citizens, and parents were being wrongfully threatened to have their children removed from their homes. This ultimately led to a collapse in the Dutch government. Similar incidents are happening in Denmark and Australia and Michigan. Again, just wanting to emphasize, this is highlighting the urgent need to learn from these failures and to implement better oversight. The fact that this technology is evolving so incredibly quickly at a rate that's never been experienced before, it's very difficult for us to know where are the biggest fires that we need to be managing and how do we effectively address them on a global scale. We now have incredible capabilities to reshape the world around us. For example, AI can now reposition, remove, or modify elements in a scene, which effectively alters the sequence of events. This capability is creating significant problems for the reliability of evidence, and people are being framed using these techniques, which are leading to wrongful prosecutions. Essentially, techniques that were once only available to Hollywood are now available to everyone for $30 a month. Of course, to try to help mitigate some of those risks, we're trying to create these AI detection and classification systems, but even those have their own set of challenges. In trying to build a system that would detect manipulated content, that detector system itself can be institutionally sexist or racist or disproportionately target certain groups. It's well known already that AI will disproportionately decide that people of a certain color or gender have been deep-faked when really they haven't. Not just that, but there's these AI classification systems that can very accurately identify objects like, let's say, a turtle through a camera input. But in some cases, we've seen where we can perturb these systems by maybe putting a sticker on it, where the AI will read that sticker and say, oh, that's a turtle, when in reality, it's a rifle. This exploitation potential allows malicious actors to disguise dangerous objects for innocuous ones and deceive the AI monitoring systems. And modern techniques can target various AI models simultaneously, which increases the overall risk of these exploits. Now let's talk a little bit about the AI benefits and risks regarding human relationships. AI-enhanced reality can make ordinary life seem very dull and mundane, which overshadows the richness of human experiences. AI can simulate relationships that feel very affectionate, very attentive, very intellectually stimulating, which is captivating the user. When we get too enamored with this sort of perfection, it can make our actual human relationships feel very disappointing and imperfect. We have to be cautious not to let AI relationships undermine the inherent value and depth of genuine human bonds. To help try to understand a little bit more about this risk that we're facing, we're going to look at the Australian outback jewel beetle. They had been experiencing a decline due to the presence of these shiny brown beer bottles. The bottles, with their exaggerated and unnaturally shiny appearance, acted as a supernormal stimulus and caused the beetles to mistake them for potential mates. The beetles were drawn to the bottles more than they were their actual mates, and that preference led to a decline in the jewel beetle population. This is an example of an unintended consequence of a human-induced stimulus into an environment. We can now take that information and apply it to unintended consequences from AI-introduced stimulus into our human environment. For example, AI chatbots have advanced to the point where they can hold conversations that feel remarkably human. These systems are not only capable of generating video content, but it can also engage in voice and video calls, creating a highly realistic interaction. By customizing these interactions to individual preferences, AI bots provide a personalized experience for each user. This reality-enhancing feature of AI is creating the supernormal stimulus effect that's creating a new social dynamic in the way that people engage with technology. This has very serious and very real potential impact on the future of our species. There's already a global trend where many developed countries are facing declining fertility rates, which is leading to potential long-term demographic challenges. I learned from Nell's presentation that the replacement level, which is the average number of children that each woman needs to have in order to keep a population size stable, is, for most countries, 2.1. And when I asked ChatGPT about the fertility rates of different countries, it already shows that United States is 1.786, and Japan is 1.36, Italy is 1.24, Spain is 1.23. These are already below the replacement level that we need to maintain a stable population size. The example that Nell gave in her presentation was that South Korea right now is at 0.68, and that projections would suggest that the population could dwindle from 51 million people today to under 1 million by 2100. And that's at current rates. When you factor in super stimulus chatbots that turn mundane reality into intoxicating fantasy, chances are all bets are off for the population of our species. Let's look at some of the AI benefits and risks in our homes regarding our privacy. So our webcams and our smartphones all have these depth sensors that are used for Face ID and also for mapping physical reality. The AI bots are using this information for training purposes so that they can perform tasks for us on our behalf. Nell had suggested in her presentation that most of us will have a domestic robot in our home within a handful of years that's going to be helping us with chores. Many of you might already have the little robots that go around and clean your carpets. A lot of major companies have some robots that are used in facilities and corporate environments for tasks like cleaning. But these robots are going into very sensitive locations like restrooms, and that's raising some privacy concerns. It's really difficult to know if a robot is being controlled by AI and that data is being used as we might imagine it should be used for, or if there's some remote human operator doing things with the information that we never would have wanted or imagined. If you Google it, you can find that we've already experienced instances of remote overseers recording private moments like people using the toilet and then sharing that on social media. So robots are able to stitch together videos and photos in a very cohesive environment, creating this thing called a neural radiance field. Robots can recognize every book on your bookshelf, every product in your kitchen, and even personal interactions. These systems are collecting intimate and personal data about our daily lives. The extent of data gathered by robots is growing substantially, especially every time that we bring a new device into our home, and this is raising significant privacy issues. This is especially true with devices that we bring into our homes that are intended to help our children, especially those with disabilities or health concerns, which were intended to provide some sort of joy or companionship or adaptive independence. But these robots are observing and learning about the children, essentially recording their behaviors and their secrets. These robots are acting as a sort of physical diary, and it's holding intimate knowledge about these children. Growing up under this constant observation by machines carries very serious and very real and very unsettling and invasive opportunities for our children to be exploited in ways we could never imagine throughout their entire lifespan. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it's hard for us to do anything in a modern lifestyle situation without creating some sort of data in some AI system somewhere. Machines use more data than we even realize to make determinations about us just from a photograph. AI can cross-correlate data from different databases to reveal a complete picture from seemingly disconnected pieces of information. The vast amounts of personal and private information that's publicly available is growing every time we bring a new device into our lives. All of this information increases the risk for bad actors to exploit this information against us and poses significant privacy risks. Machine vision can detect tiny changes in a person's face, reflecting blood flow and heartbeats. Perhaps you've seen that before in a political debate where the AI is mapping out what their heart rate is while they're answering different questions. Now, politicians by nature have opted into the public scrutiny, but me as a private citizen would like to imagine that when I go into a grocery store and it's scanning my face, that it's not trying to gauge some information about me that I might otherwise not realize it's picking up and using to target me for certain purchasing patterns and behaviors. Not just that, but even when we take a selfie, those pictures can tell far more about us than we even realize. AI systems can zoom in and they can see a reflection of what it is that I'm looking at. And because of the spherical shape of our eyes, AI is actually able to reconstruct an entire scene around me. So significant amounts of information can be extracted from these simple selfies that we aren't even aware of or intending to make available while we're doing that act of taking the selfie. At this point on our journey, AI is able to infer things like intelligence and sexuality and political affiliations, all within about a 70 to 80% accuracy. And this is the worst it's ever going to be. Every handful of months, certainly every year, it gets exponentially better at doing these things. This level of accuracy enables AI or other people to specifically target individuals based on their inferred personal traits. Aspects of our lives that were once deeply personal are now detectable by AI, which is robbing us of privacy. This relentless erosion of privacy threatens fundamental human dignity that comes with keeping our personal matters private. Couple of last little scary topics before we jump into sort of where we are at now in terms of mitigating these risks and what we can further do to get involved and help continue to shape ethical and inclusive AI. During the Cold War, East Germany's Stasi employed psychological manipulation tactics known as Zertzung to destabilize dissidents. These included gaslighting strategies like breaking into their home when they weren't home and altering personal items to create confusion, or personal attacks such as spreading rumors or seducing their spouses to undermine their social support. In today's AI-driven world, these tactics are easily amplified. AI can automate misinformation, manipulate digital content, and target individuals with personalized psychological strategies. This highlights the crucial need for ethical AI practices to prevent misuse by powerful entities and protect individual privacy and mental well-being. Again, who is it that's making these decisions about what is ethical AI, and how can I take part in that? Because I personally don't want to abdicate that responsibility. Another example of misuse of personal information, eBay was involved in a scandal where they cyberstalked a couple just for criticizing their policies. They sent live spiders to this couple. They sent explicit material in the couple's name to the couple's neighbor. They sent distressing books like How to Overcome the Loss of a Spouse. They even took invasive measures to try to place trackers on their car. The very access to this personal information can create very deep temptation for some people that can be very hard for some people to resist. So what are some risk mitigation strategies that Nell had brought into the presentation that would allow us to protect our individual privacy and autonomy in an AI-driven world? First and foremost, transparency in AI at every level. We need transparency embedded into AI systems so that we understand what it's doing and who is benefiting. We need transparency that can detect disproportionate biases that may unfairly affect certain groups. And we need to improve accountability so that we know when things are going wrong, so that we can correct and improve the AI systems accordingly. Transparent AI systems also help to ensure fairness and equity in their applications and their outcomes. We are developing new encryption techniques called homomorphic encryption that allows the data to remain accessible to machine learning systems without compromising the security. Just like when you're doing your online banking and you see that little padlock that gives you a little bit of assurance that your data is private, right now we don't really have that with our AI interactions. These encryption techniques are crucial for protecting sensitive information while still allowing us to benefit from AI's capabilities. The field of AI is evolving right now beyond the basic principles. These were things like transparency, fairness, privacy, accountability. There was no real way to monitor it or ensure compliance, but that has started to change. Nell recommends adopting a risk-based mindset for managing the unknown impacts of rapidly evolving AI technologies, ensuring responsible and ethical deployment. Two of the tools that she shared, one was the AI Standards Hub, which is a resource at the Alan Turing's Institute, and you can find that here. And that helps to find guidance across various industries and various risk factors associated with AI systems. The other resource she gave us was the Incident Database.ai, which allows organizations to proactively mitigate future risks and improve overall safety. We're also seeing a lot of international agreements on AI safety, such as with the US and the UK AI Safety Agreement, which is designed to ensure AI safety and align AI with human values and goals. These agreements are crucial for the responsible advancement of AI technology. When we bring this issue closer to home and start asking, what can I do? Raising awareness is the number one thing on the list. Education about this field and about the risks involved are important not just for kids, but for anyone who considers themselves less tech savvy about AI. Ways that we can do that are helping people to interact with AI systems so that they can understand the capabilities as well as the limitations. We can also focus on teaching communication, collaboration, empathy, and resilience for when times are scary and the world is weird. We can encourage a mindset of lifelong learning to adapt to a constantly changing world. Each of these important values underlie my mission and my purpose for having created my virtual community, catharticclarity.ai. I'm wanting to get more people involved in this conversation. I'm wanting to teach them to use these tools, and I'm wanting to help them use them to enhance their communication, collaboration, empathy, and resilience. I am encouraging and promoting a mindset of lifelong learning so that as this world is constantly changing, we are able to evolve right alongside with it. Within organizations, it's particularly important to empower everyone in the organization to speak up about potential issues. The frontline person in customer service is often in the best spot to see the problem first, but oftentimes there are these managerial bottlenecks that hinder the flow of this critical information. It's important to establish direct line of communication for employees to report issues to leadership promptly. Swiftly addressing these issues can prevent them from escalating into major scandals. And while this point is basically coming up as the last one in the slide deck, It is by far, in many ways, the most important. How do we decide truth in AI training? Our common knowledge is under unprecedented attack, which is impacting how we even perceive truth. Now, this has been the case for a number of years. We are all aware of different sides having different views and finding no middle ground on which to land. But in the age of AI-generated content and the very pervasive and extensive and prolific way that AI is able to deliver content, truth can be weaponized, which can contribute to widespread demoralization. More so than ever, we are going to need communities that we can have real people who we trust so that we can leverage our collective intelligence to vet and understand information. Initiatives like community guidance on social platforms is going to help analyze and validate information. It's going to take combining human insight with this machine analysis to ground AI training in reality. This will allow us to move forward with greater confidence and lower risk, personally and collectively. This is another example of a call to action that I chose to take responsibility for in creating my virtual community, Cathartic Clarity AI, that I'm hoping more people will benefit from and emulate in their own way with the pieces of this puzzle that are most important to them. So a few final thoughts from Nell's presentation. She encouraged us to use AI selectively, especially when there's high-stakes sectors like finance and justice and healthcare. She encourages us to avoid overcomplicating a situation by using AI if a simpler solution would suffice. She shared that these generative and agentic models hold immense promise, that they can solve these intractable problems and transform our world, but we have to be able to use them responsibly and carefully. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. I appreciate you so much for staying with me on this journey, hearing me out, and letting me share what I'm learning. And I want to hear from you. In what way might this information help shape your interest in learning more about this AI revolution? You can learn more about me at my website. You can schedule a call with me if you like. You're welcome to join me in my community. And finally, my call to action: get involved, share your story, because humanity needs your voice. And now I'm going to do a quick little ChatGPT demo. For those of you who have stuck around, greatly appreciate it. Let's just jump in. Here we have our ChatGPT interface. And I'm going to, basically, I like to take the transcript from the session that I just shared, and I'm going to drop that in my ChatGPT window along with this prompt. Please draft a set of ethical guidelines for AI development and deployment based on the key points discussed in this presentation. Then I just hit enter. So it has the whole transcript from the presentation, and now it's going to distill this ethical guideline based on her points. So purpose and justification, accountability and transparency, accuracy and reliability, risk assessment, human oversight, biases and fairness, privacy and data security, ethical design and development. What was that one? And applying principles such as programmatic scaffolding to secure AI thinking for more coherent and responsible decision-making. Yes. Education and awareness, of course. Collaboration and standards. We talked about that towards the end. Preventing misuse by developing and enforcing policies to ensure AI systems are used ethically and responsibly. Promoting beneficial use. And, of course, ethical leadership. Cultivating ethical leadership within organizations to champion responsible AI practices. So this gives you a good jumping off point within your personal life as well as your corporate life to start the conversation about ethical and inclusive AI and the responsibility we can take in our personal and professional lives to make sure that we get all the benefits while minimizing the greatest risks. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time.